Hi everyone, this is Jillian from Jewish Workshops and Aish Webinars. It is a pleasure to be joining all of you today, and we are extremely privileged to have Abby Weisz on the line with us. Before we get started, I'd love to see who's joining us and where you're from. So if you could go to your chat box and put your name or your initials, whichever you're most comfortable with, and where you're joining us from, I'd love to be able to welcome you. I know, of course, due to the sensitive nature of today's topic, initials are fine if you're more comfortable with that. Of course, you will completely stay anonymous throughout the course and any questions that you put in here. But I would love to be able to see who's joining us and from where in the world you are coming from. So let me get started. Welcome and good morning from the Pacific Northwest. Nice to see you here. Welcome, Javi from Muncie. Nice to see you. Charlotte from California. Angela from Washington, welcome. Los Angeles, someone's here from Los Angeles, welcome. L from London and ST from Florida, EK from Israel and MK from New York, Hirsch from Toronto, welcome. RL from Boston, Miriam from Jerusalem, Samantha from New York, CR from Virginia, welcome. Avi from Honduras and CP from Chicago. Welcome MM from New York and Michelle from Florida, SF from Tennessee. Welcome to someone from Brooklyn. Nice to see you. And another one from Israel. Welcome to you too. Welcome Esti from Israel and Simi from New Jersey, Sheila from Connecticut, TC from Yerushalayim, Chava from Beit Shemesh. Welcome Jay from London and Barbara from Manchester. I from Ramat Beit Shemesh, welcome. Elisheva, welcome. Malka from New Jersey. We have some people here from Lakewood, welcome. And Levi from Brooklyn. RH from New York. Rebecca from Florida. JS from India, welcome. Jerry from Ohio. And Hannah from Jersey. Shulamit from Israel. This is amazing. P from South Africa, welcome. DK from Chicago, CH from New York, Michael from Hong Kong, YN from Indiana, Avraham from Atlanta, LM from New Jersey, SS from New York, SH from Texas, welcome. Naomi from South Africa, regards from Antwerp, welcome to you. KD from Calgary, Canada, welcome. There are so many people pouring in here. It's going to be hard to get to everyone. I will do my best to just get to a few more. Welcome, Adrian from Sacramento and LR from Florida. Sari from Chicago. Leah from Cape Town, welcome. Goldie from Monroe and Abby from Tampa. Welcome, S from London. Anthony from Sweden. Welcome, Shaul from Israel. And M from Florida. Unbelievable. As people continue to flood in from all over the world, I want to say welcome to all of you. We had over 2,000 people sign up, and we can see that this is truly a worldwide event. So we are likely to hit capacity shortly. Please make sure not to leave in the middle. I don't want you to get locked out. We have so much to go over today, and we are going to start getting to it in just a minute. Oh, welcome C from Manchester and S from New York as well. From the time Jewish Workshops began, we've offered a variety of programs on marriage, relationships, personal growth and introspection, and so much more. But never before had we had the opportunity to open the doors to a marriage therapist, sex educator, and intimacy counselor. Countless emails and phone calls have come in requesting guidance in one of the most sensitive areas of our life. So we asked Abby to introduce to us today tools and skills we can use based on her expertise in couples relationships. With hundreds of questions that came in ahead of time, we will do our very best to answer as many as possible live on the line. So please, again, stay tuned till the end to get your questions answered and to hear about this one-time chance to join Abby week after week for a full live series at a special discounted rate just because you came today. It is my supreme honor to be hosting Abby Weisz. Abby is a marriage and family therapist, psychotherapist, sex educator, and intimacy counselor. Through individual therapy, couples work lectures, and workshops, Abby has helped people from around the world make the changes necessary to transform their relationships and their lives. Abby works closely with Rabbanim both in Israel and in the US who have a deep understanding in the areas of halacha surrounding intimacy and sexuality in order to offer the best guidance possible. Abby, we are so grateful that you are here joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to you. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hi everyone. Welcome, and I am doing great. I couldn't be more excited to be here learning with all of you, really from all over the world. It's thrilling, and it's exciting, and it speaks to the level of interest and sensitivity that people have surrounding the topic of intimacy, which is a really important topic in everybody's life. And I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you to Jewish Workshops and to Weisz. Thank you to Hashem, to God, for allowing us all to come here to be able to discuss this really important topic. I'm gonna take a few minutes to introduce myself, even though Jillian gave me a beautiful introduction. I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of background to understand who I am and where I come from and how I came to this work. I think that as we share intimate ideas, it's important for you to know who you're speaking with. And so I came to this work. It's actually been a journey for me through the different roles that I've played in our life, in mine and my husband's life, in terms of the journey that we've taken to get where we are today. You're meeting me here today in Beit Shemesh in Israel. We made Aliyah in 2011. We moved to Israel. And in my professional career, I have a master's in education. I have a master's in social work, and I spent a lot of time in the education field while living in America. I served in a role as a rebbitzin and did informal education within our Jewish community, and in terms of working with couples as well as working with teens surrounding concepts and ideas surrounding healthy body image. In that role, I also served as mikveh lady. That is somebody who accompanies the Jewish woman to the ritual bath at her time of immersion. And in that space, I was able to interface with women who were about to embark on a journey of renewal in their physical, intimate life. And in these different roles that I've played in the different educational pieces that I've been involved in, and therapeutic pieces as well, I've came to notice a gap of healthy information regarding intimacy and sexuality. And I found this in the Orthodox Jewish community. I also found this in the secular world in general, that if somebody's seeking information about intimacy or sexuality, so it is accessible. You Google it, and what comes up is very potentially negative and dangerous information related to pornography and other negative messages of sexuality. And I very much felt that to be able to expand the conversation and open the conversation of healthy sexuality, thereby could allow individuals and couples to experience a new version for themselves. And Baruch Hashem, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. My work is with individuals and couples surrounding intimacy and sexuality, and I work as a sex educator as well. I'm gonna jump right in and get started with today's class. Before I go into the meat and potatoes, I wanted to just offer a few disclaimers and precautions, as we are discussing a very sensitive topic and a very intimate topic. So first and foremost, we are going to be discussing safety in the emotional and physical relationship. And it's all about feeling safe. And in the discussion surrounding safety, I'm going to use that word safety loosely, and it's speaking to a feeling of security and a feeling of holding in the relationship. And if anybody is in a relationship that is abusive, either emotionally abusive or physically abusive or verbally abusive, so the concept shared today will not be applicable to you, and I would not suggest that you put them in place. I would suggest that you get help, specific help to deal with those challenges in your life. I think it's also very important to notice that, yes, I do come from an Orthodox background, and I interface with the Rabbanim regularly regarding my educational work, as well as specific shaylas, specific questions that come up on a case-to-case basis. And I'm speaking here tonight not necessarily from a halachic voice, but from a therapeutic voice, and I would appreciate if you would hear me as such. The last thing that I just would like to, not necessarily caution, but a precaution, that I am going to be using explicit language. I refer to the body and to different areas of intimacy with medical terminology. I am sensitive to the idea of Lashon HaKodesh, of using Hebrew words for certain things. I also think that the importance of opening a discussion about intimacy and sexuality encourages and entails finding the right language. And so I encourage you to accept the words that I use, challenge them for yourself, see if you feel comfortable, and let that be the beginning of your process of how you are going to be able to incorporate a language to discuss intimacy in your marriage, discuss intimacy and sexuality within your marriage. Okay, so I used that word intimacy a number of times already, and I want to open up the floor and open up the I guess the classroom, the global classroom, for people to write in. And I'm curious to hear from all of you what intimacy means to you. And I guess the moderator will be able to share what's coming in. Are our answers coming in yet?
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time, but here we go. It means connection, a love and respect between two people, physical closeness, emotional closeness, trust, physical bonding with one's spouse, peeling away layers of ourselves, expressing vulnerability in a safe way, secrecy, communicating, feeling loved and heard, a look, a touch, an understanding, being close to someone emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Yeah, connecting on all three levels, emotional, physical, and spiritual, not judging.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All of these answers are beautiful, and I'm sure there's more answers coming in. Thank you. I want to just touch briefly on the secrecy. You know, in the course, in the 4-part series that we'll be offering later on, I'm going to discuss the difference between secrecy and privacy, and I would encourage the use of privacy surrounding the discussion of intimacy between a couple, not necessarily intimacy, but I think I understand what you're saying, and I just wanted to make that differentiation. But thank you all for your responses. Those are great. Intimacy is all of those pieces, exactly how you shared them. Thank you. It's closeness. It's creating a connection. And as some of you touched on, what I want to bring to the forefront is that intimacy is exactly that, the spiritual, always as the backdrop, but it's the emotional piece as well as the physical piece. And in any relationship and in any area of our lives, when there is emotional safety, when there is a feeling of emotional holding, there is the ability for a deeper connection. And so what I want to talk about a little bit today is the relationship between the emotional and the physical, and how creating that will allow for a safe house, will allow for shalom bayit. Now, I think I'm, in sex therapy, there's a few different approaches, and I kind of try in my work to incorporate all the approaches. So I'm going to try to bring some of that in here today, and please feel free to write in if you have any questions. But I'm going to move through the material and invite you for questions and participation along the way. And as we consider intimacy and we consider the emotional realm, we consider the physical realm, let's look at the physical body. Let's actually look at the physical goof, the body that Hashem gave each of us, and Hashem gave us exactly what he wanted us to have in its complete perfection. Baruch Hashem, and that is a value that I hope people can accept about themselves, something that will be discussed later in the course as well. And if we understand really what the goof is, what we understand, it's a kli, it's a vessel to experience, in order to experience the world. And from a Jewish perspective, the guf is the kli to do mitzvahs. That is our physical being, our physical body in this world, and it allows us to perform to the highest extent in the world. And if we look at this from a sexual health professional outlook, we can look into the actual body, into the actual physical body. And there's a discussion in the sexual health world about erogenous zones and what is considered a sexual organ and what's not considered a sexual organ. And it's very interesting that the largest sexual organ on the human body would be considered the skin. Our bodies are wrapped in over 90% of skin, and if we think about that, each time the skin is touched different areas and in different ways, that is the way that the body experiences the world. And we have our senses. Touch is one of them, and Hashem has given us all of the senses of the body, and with that we are able to experience the world, experience the beauty and the greatness that Hashem brought in. And for our discussion today, it's our ability to experience pleasure and physical closeness and holding and a feeling of safety within our relationships, within our intimate lives. And if we're able to think for one more moment about what skin is from a scientific perspective, when the body has an experience in the world, so the skin is kind of like the first line of defense, right? And if we're looking to understand how the body experiences, so I'm going to use an example of a fear example. Okay, so when the body is exposed to something that is dangerous, perhaps fire, and you learn at a very young age that fire is hot, we don't go near fire. We learn that because what happens? You expose the skin to this item that is dangerous, and immediately the brain creates a neural pathway that explains this situation for you in your physical body is not safe, and stay away from it. Okay, now this concept can be applied to all experiences of the skin, and I'm going to apply it for a moment to what feels good for a person and what can be perceived as pleasure, and what felt good for a person when they were a child, and how a mother or father held or positioned a child, and the messages that a child gets about touch from their parents is something that they take with them, and it's part of their experience in their intimate life. And in that way, we're experiencing touch. And if I can bring that into the intimate relationship as well, that what the person experiences in terms of touch in the intimate, physical, lovemaking aspect of a relationship, the brain creates responses to that. The brain understands it and creates responses to that. And what I kind of want to bring to the forefront today is that if the physical body is experiencing something and the brain is processing that experience, okay, the way to create emotional closeness is for that touch to be, the way to create safety is for that touch to be an expression of safety and of holding, and for that to impact the emotional relationship, and for the emotional relationship to impact that physical touch. And I just want to kind of zoom out for a minute and go to that place to say that in any area in any case that has come to me, and any area of life, really, we're able to see that the physical relationship between a husband and a wife is often reflective of what's going on in the emotional relationship between the husband and wife. And similarly, the emotional relationship between a husband and wife is often reflective of what's going on in the physical relationship between a husband and a wife. And so therefore, in our talk today, in our learning today, and as well as in the future series, I'm going to ask you to check in with yourself about where you are in your physical relationship with your spouse, and where you are in your emotional relationship with yourself, and where those two collide, interact, intersect, collaborate. And this is something that only you yourself are going to be able to understand and process, and I encourage you to do that at different points. For now, I want to ask for participation again. And I would like to welcome everybody to please speak about, is to share some elements, some ideas, some hopes that you would like to gain in your relationship. And I'm talking about right now the emotional relationship as well as the physical relationship. I guess I give it a minute, right?
Yep, it might just take a minute. Okay. The ability to forgive and to trust. Definitely. Oh, another one says trust, a deep understanding and caring, connection during NEDA, transparency and vulnerability, better communication, excitement, connection and friendship, trust and caring, physical intimacy, better openness, feeling safe and cared for, the ability not to be shamed of sexuality, an ongoing deep love for my wife throughout each month and wanting her more, emotional closeness, feeling comfortable and being vulnerable, best friend in the world, accept the other person's pitfalls and stop judging, that my spouse will want to be intimate with me more often, the ability to express intimate needs. And I saw from, the questions that came in ahead of time, that was something that was really largely talked about, that people are just uncomfortable or don't know how to open that conversation. I think initiating was also a big part of people's struggles, not knowing if they should initiate, waiting for the other spouse to initiate, not being comfortable initiating. Let's see, more people are writing mutual satisfaction, being excited for sexuality, increased desire and interest in sex, to feel that it's about you, not just your husband, feel accepted in an imperfect body, judgment not clouding emotional connection, being happy to just give and not not receive.
Great. I'm gonna just give me a few more, and these are all excellent. Thank you all so much for sharing.
There's ability to be physical after a disagreement or difference of opinion, which puts a damper on the mood. A time to be physical without intercourse, trust, learning boundaries.
Great. I think that at every single thing mentioned here, and again, thank you all so much for sharing your own personal experiences and your hopes and what you're looking to build in your marriages, is that so much of being able to accomplish anything in a relationship is to be in a place where we feel safe. That the ability for a couple to connect physically in the bedroom, to be able to pleasure each other physically in the bedroom, there needs to be a sound and secure, safe house surrounding that, right? And the direction to build that sound and safe, secure house is all about emotional intimacy. Some of the things mentioned were not feeling judged about your body, not feeling accepted, being able to organize around conflict, being able to navigate different challenges in the marriage and in the life. And that all speaks to ideas of emotional closeness, of the ability and the feeling of the couple that they're really in this together, that everything that goes on in our relationship is something that is between us, about mutual giving, mutual receiving, and thereby bringing us to mutual potential pleasure. And I'm speaking about pleasure in the emotional realm, but I'm also speaking about pleasure in the physical realm. And some of the things that we're going to talk about in this series are challenges in intimacy that would lead to pain or discomfort. And it's also things that we're going to be speaking about are if you're at a certain place in your sex life and you would like for it to reach greater heights in terms of pleasure and climax and areas of intimacy that can feel more real and giving. And the backdrop of all of this, and this is what I'm planning on, and I would like to focus with you on today, is the emotional closeness that is able to be developed in the safe house. what I want to just take a moment now to understand and to get a feel from you, because I really feel like we have a whole range of experiences being shared here today, is I want everybody to take a moment right now. We're talking about safety. I'm sharing this idea of safety and how really that is the backdrop to emotional closeness, which could lead to physical closeness, physical giving and receiving. And I want to get like a temperature barometer for how safe people feel in their marriage. 0 being not safe at all, in which case I really encourage you to seek further help, and 10 being safe all the time, which is, I don't want to say near impossible, but different life stages and challenges would make that, move up and down. I just want to get a feel from the audience where we at in terms of level of safety in a marriage.
9, 9, 8, 10, 7, 8, 7. Feeling safe when we don't argue. 5, 9. Someone's asking, in the bedroom or in the marriage in general, or is there a difference?
Amazing question. Thank you so much. There is definitely a difference, and every couple's experience surrounding physical intimacy, surrounding lovemaking and sex and intercourse and any kind of physical touch that does not include intercourse. It's possible for the two to be different. But I guess I'm speaking to more the feeling in the emotional aspect of the relationship.
Okay, great. There's more 9s. 7, 2, 9, 9, 6, 8, 10, 10, Baruch Hashem. 3, 3, 8, 7.
Great. So I thank you all. And, I think it is important to kind of, for every person to take pulse on their marriage and take pulse on their relationship and get an idea of what is the underlying feeling of safety in the marriage. And I'm speaking to safety, as we discussed, also in the physical, also in the emotional realm. And I just want to take a moment to describe how an emotional response how emotional response in terms of how a couple relates to each other, how it can impact in the bedroom. And I'll bring cases that I've seen in my clinic, that potentially a husband who feels that he is not heard or is not given space within the marriage. It's possible that might look like a difficulty maintaining an erection during intimacy, and that literally is the body responding to the feeling of not being given space. I can give an example of a woman who is feeling, let's say, low desire or less desire. And this isn't a rule across the board, but this is an idea that I think could be meaningful if it speaks to you, that a woman who is experiencing low desire, and it could be, of course, due to certain life circumstances, that medical issues or pregnancy or anything else that's going on in life, that it's possible that the low level of passion in the physical area of the relationship is speaking to a lower level of passion in the emotional area of the relationship, and that could be due to feeling undervalued or underappreciated. It's possible that something happens in the beginning of the week that the woman feels, let's say, undervalued or underappreciated in the relationship, that could impact her interest or her ability to be intimate with her spouse later on in the week. Now, he doesn't know that what he did, something as small as like leaving the milk on the counter, her finding it when she comes home from her workday, can bring up feelings of undervalued. But I want to be able to draw for you direct correlations between the emotional realm of the individual and how that can potentially impact their ability to connect with their spouse in the bedroom. And it's when we are not able to communicate surrounding these issues and these situations that come up that the challenges arise. Now, I want to just take a moment to speak about the challenge here and how difficult it is and how hard it is. Now, one part of a relationship who's feeling undervalued, or feeling, in order to be able to be intimate with your spouse, you need to be able to make yourself feel vulnerable. That's what we spoke about. And if there is not emotional closeness, right? So there's an inability to make yourself vulnerable in the emotional part of the relationship, and those feelings might lead to feelings of loneliness, lack of security. Okay, and how might those feelings play out in the bedroom for the couple? And so, as I explained in my examples, there could be the response of you're less interested in physical affection. There could be the response of a lack of passion. If we introduce the possibility of, a person's needs not being met in the bedroom in terms of reaching climax or having pleasure, that could lead to feelings of disappointment and therefore distance in the emotional area of the relationship. I think it's also important to notice the if there is pain during intimacy, that oftentimes that is the body letting the individual know that something doesn't feel safe here for me, something doesn't feel right here for me, whether that's about the individual themselves, whether that's a dynamic in the relationship that needs to be explored. The body is able to tell a story. And when the body speaks, when there is pain, when there's physical pain, we need to be able to stop and look at what that's about, and look and understand what might be going on, also for the individual as well as for the couple. I think that when we're talking about safety, when we're talking about security in a relationship, that the challenge that might be that there are different challenges that come up surrounding that, as we're speaking to right now. And the difficulty of being married to somebody, of your spouse suffering from mental illness. And I'll use the example of depression. When you're married to a person who's depressed, and depression is a very common form of mental illness in today's day and age, that there's ups and downs and highs and lows in a person suffering from depression. And when the spouse needs to always be keeping track of where the other is in terms of their emotional well-being, then that doesn't allow for the feeling of safety and security and stability. And stability is really what we're looking for in order to be able to create a safe, intimate relationship. Okay, and stability, I always say that ups and downs are normal. Ups and downs are good. And in terms of a couple's intimate life, we hope for ups and downs, because, this motion, this Eva motion, what is that signaling? That's signaling when the heart rate machine goes, right? That's not a good thing. That means that you're not living anymore, because part of the human experience is highs and lows. But I'm speaking to right now specifically the experience of being in a relationship, being in an intimate relationship with somebody who has not yet managed to create stability in their own mental health, in their own health and well-being. So that would create feelings of lack of security in the bedroom. Excuse me. As mentioned as well, having to wonder if your spouse is attracted to you, having to wonder how your physical body is perceived, can be not only stressful, it can be hurtful, it can lead to very negative thoughts about yourself. That's something that we need to keep track of always. And I feel like each of the things that we're talking about now are very difficult, and they're very hard to hold on a single basis. And now I just want to, for everyone here, to imagine like what that would be like on a continuous basis. Let's say a feeling of rejection in the bedroom, that one partner is more interested than the other partner. So the first time, that's hurtful. The second time, that's hurtful, feeling rejected, feeling not wanted. And then in the bedroom is the place, and we discussed this in the ad that we shared. The bedroom is the place where small cracks in our relationship start to happen. And all these feelings that are really, they're not small feelings, but they are the body's way of experiencing the emotional relationship. And those small feelings and the messages that the body is sending us are in the beginning small, but over time, we talk about long-term ramifications of these challenges in intimacy. And I think you can a little bit maybe begin to understand how small fissures in the foundation of the emotional safety of the relationship as it plays out in the physical realm can lead to real cracks and places of danger in the marriage and in the home. And when I think about it, that is really what brought me to this work, because the ability for a couple to have a conversation about healthy intimacy, about what they can give to each other and can receive to each other, what feels right and what feels good, and what doesn't feel good, is really, really important. And I find that couples really struggle surrounding this because of the very deep feelings associated with the physical body. And I just want to go back for a minute. If we understand that the physical body is the first way that the human being experiences the world, and the messages surrounding whatever the experiences is are imprinted in the brain. And when I'm speaking to the small cracks and how they grow larger, so how those messages can be amplified over the years of inability to connect surrounding intimacy can really hold a couple back, can really keep an individual down, can really be a place of imbalance in a relationship, and can be just really, really hard. And so here today, again, this is how I came to this work. I want to share some ideas with you if any of these ideas that were shared just now speak to you. I want to share some ideas with you and some concepts based on different researchers and different models of how to develop the arena of emotional intimacy in a marriage, and thereby impact your physical relationship with your spouse. And for this, I really want to present. I'm going to be presenting a few different pieces, and I want to start with the Gottman relationship safe house model. Jillian, I think you can upload this somehow, right?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen now.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. The truth is, before we go into Gottman, in gathering my approach and in gathering my understanding about how the emotional relationship impacts the physical relationship, and the physical relationship impacts the emotional relationship, so I had the opportunity, Baruch Hashem, to read a lot and to explore different relationship models. And one thing that's that has been very interesting is that Esther Perel, in her book Mating in Captivity, speaks to very interesting, and I want to quote directly, that emotional connection will actually stand in the way of a good erotic connection. And in presenting this sound relationship house, I'm looking to show you how, really the ability to have a close emotional connections will create for you what you're looking for in your intimate life, what you're hoping for, what you want to build. And this safe house can work in any stage of life that you're at, in any, I want to say, age range that you find yourself in currently, because it's all about being able to refocus and reposition ourselves so that husband and wife are looking towards each other in terms of building a relationship. Now, recently there's been a book that came out, and I can supply some reading material if you want to be in touch with me after. It's called The Normal Bar, and it's fascinating because I think so many people are wondering in terms of intimacy of what is considered, what is normal, what is the norm, and how many times a week is normal, and what kind of lovemaking is normal, and people want to understand where they match up on the normal bar. And I think that hopefully I think it's a great book and I do recommend it. I think that hopefully as we are focusing on each other, husband and wife, and are working towards building the sound relationship house, that what's normal almost falls to the wayside a little bit. And because you are going to be creating your normal, you are going to be creating not only your normal, God willing, you're going to be creating your great. I do think that the formula of being able to establish emotional intimacy and therefore establish a safe house will directly impact the quality of your lovemaking and can lead a couple to a more fulfilling sex life. I think that I'll share that more towards the end. Let's get started with the safe house. Let's get started together. So at the bottom, at the safe, before we get to the bottom, if you notice the pillars, literally the pillars holding up the home are trust and commitment. And I really do see these as the foundational blocks of a relationship, is the feeling that this person is somebody that I can completely trust. There is nothing that is, I don't want to say that there are allowed to be secrets in a marriage, and that is, you know, I know a bigger discussion that I'm not going to open up right now, but the understanding that we are in a trusting relationship and we are open with each other is hugely important. That is one pillar. The other pillar is commitment, that the person is able to feel that we are, again, 100% committed and in this relationship, and everything that comes up in our lives, whatever challenges life throws at us, we are in this together. We are working towards this together. With that backdrop, I want to focus a little bit on the actual building part. And we start with the idea of building love maps. And if you notice, it says here, getting to know one another's world. And I think that when a couple is dating, it's all about love map. And it's all about what's your favorite this and what's your favorite that and how do you like to do this. And then as a marriage progresses, I don't want to say couples lose interest in each other, but, you know, things get old. And not only things get old, life picks up, and God willing, people are blessed with children and careers and homes and aging parents, and just the pace of life really picks up, and the ability to still be intimately involved and intimately knowing what's going on in the other's life. And there are questions I could ask to in order to build these love maps of, you know, where was the first place we went on our date, and on our dates, and who are my best friends, and how did you spend your day? And I do encourage you, one thing that I'm very into is I see myself as like a place to offer resources. So the Gottman Institute is an excellent resource, gottmaninstitute.com, and they offer all of the questions for potential building of love maps. And in this way, creating a place where husband and wife are really connecting with each other and are being intimately involved in each other's lives. Now, every area of the safe house that I want to share, sorry I didn't say this before I began, because we're not only talking about the emotional relationship right now, we're talking about the intimate relationship, the physical relationship. And so this is an emotional safe house, and on each level of the safe house, I would like to interject, I would like to look at it through what it would look like through the lens of the physical relationship. So with the building the love maps, here I would like to interject, I would like to add in the level of being able to communicate surrounding intimacy. Developing a language, developing the ability to verbalize what you're feeling and experiencing in your intimate life to your spouse, and that being part of your conversation. And I don't say that as something light at all. That's something that I am going to spend time on more in depth in this series, because I know that it is a place where couples struggle, and I respect that. The next level of the house is being able to share fondness and admiration. So like I said, it's very easy to lose shared interest as the pace of life increases. And here we want to be able, for the couple to be able to share things that they enjoy. And so what does that look like in terms of the physical relationship? So that looks like weekly dates. And I know in other classes, and hopefully in almost every class that speaks about a healthy marriage, should be spoken about the idea of date night. And what's date night? Date night is a set time every week that the couple has, the husband and the wife has alone with each other with no interruptions. And it could be for 20 minutes, even though I would suggest it to be longer. But let's say the couple says everything is too busy right now, I don't have any time, I can only carve out time for, you know, this much time. So instead of saying 20 minutes, that's not worth anything, say 20 minutes, that's what we're going to do. And noticing that this is the effort that we're both putting into the marriage right now. And so that's a weekly commitment to be with each other. go out or stay home. And a few rules about date night is conversation topics is we're not allowed to talk about kids, we're not allowed to talk about work, and we're not allowed to talk about finances. And we are allowed to talk about things that are enjoyable, things that we connect over. And in this area of the safe house, I want to point out the value of being able to have fun together, of keeping things light and fun, and having that playful element of the emotional relationship, as well as the physical relationship. And here we talk about the friendship base, and we'll talk about that more later on. And here also I want to talk about the value of being able to cuddle. And when I say cuddle, I'm speaking about any physical touch that is not surrounding actual intercourse. Okay, so I think everybody sitting in the audience, everyone listening in, is coming from a different background and a different understanding of what's appropriate in terms of physical intimacy. Excuse me. And I want to take that into account, that cuddling doesn't necessarily have to mean touching each other, but it could also mean having an intimate look with each other, being in close proximity to each other, if that's what's appropriate in your culture. And the idea that we're sharing something that's intimate between us, that's not related to actual intercourse. Now, I think that's something that's also really important on the sharing fondness and admiration, is that the couple there agrees that that sex, that actual lovemaking, is a priority to both parts of the couple. And I think what's very common and what happens often is that actual intimacy, actual lovemaking falls to the bottom of the list of other things that need to happen during the day, whether it be work and kids and just any community responsibilities and any other area, and the laundry, because the laundry is something that will definitely hold people back in terms of physical intimacy, and that the couple is able to share that this is a priority for us. This is something that we want to be working on together. And I'm saying that really to anyone who has joined the call tonight without their other half, that, to understand that, yes, if it's important to you, if it's more important to you, less important to you, and how can the couple kind of get on the same page about the level of importance. Again, a larger topic that we will cover. And the next level of the safe house, we have this idea of turning towards each other instead of turning away. Now, to me, I know it's an emotional house, but it's a very physical movement, and it's literally the ability to when a conflict comes up, when something hurtful or challenging comes up, even like in the processing of the day, that somebody feels slighted, or this comment made me feel this way, a negative feeling I'm speaking to, the ability for the person, instead of sniping back or instead of pulling away, distancing themselves, and those are two very basic responses in terms of fear or arousal, and fear and arousal are very closely related, that's fight or flight, right? So fight would be sniping back or arguing, and flight would be distancing yourself from the person, from the other, is that we actually turn towards each other, and there try to, first of all, check in with yourself. What were the emotions that came up with you surrounding that event? Okay, that hurtful or emotional event. And it doesn't even be an event. It could be something, like I said, as small as leaving the milk out on the counter. Okay, and then how can we communicate, and how can we come together over this, and thereby creating emotional intimacy, which, yes, does impact physical intimacy. In this area specifically, I encourage the intentionality, that this really does take effort to keep yourself in that space that might be a little bit painful, or a little bit uncomfortable, or a little bit like, no, that's not my job, or no, that wasn't fair to me, to allow yourself to remain in the situation, remain in the space of turning towards each other. We are going to engage in communication over this instead of turning away from each other. In the positive perspective, in the next level, sorry, we're up to the green level of the home. We're speaking to being able to see different parts of the relationship as positive, being able to stay good friends. And when you think of good friends, and I'm not going to ask everybody to write in just because I see that we are running short on time, is when you think about the values, the things that you value about your good friend, or what makes you feel good in being in a relationship with a certain friend. So that might exist or might not exist in your marriage, and that, you know, depending on who and what and the specific situation, could be to your detriment or not. But I do think that in terms of a marriage, and we're talking about sharing fondness and building love maps, that the idea of being good friends is an integral part of a marriage. And that is something that will take the marriage through, God willing, to 120 years. Now, we're going to take a few minutes to go through this idea of managing conflict. And here, specifically here, surrounding conflict, I'll just pause for one moment, and I want to just hear, is everybody with me? Does anyone have any questions? And again, I know that we are on the clock.
Yes, yeah. We're all here.
Okay. Everyone's with me? Okay, great. Yeah. So I just want to check in because we're going through, and this idea of managing conflict. So conflict is a major part of every relationship, and how the couple organizes surrounding the conflict is really important to the feeling of safety, as that's easily understood, and to the general quality of emotional closeness in the relationship. Okay, and so I want to speak a little bit to being able to hear the other, and here it's called accepting your partner's influence, and the ability for a couple to dialogue about problems and to be able to bring up what's going on for you, bring up what's hard for you, to be able to hear each other. And that's really what we're speaking to in accepting your partner's influence, is being able to hear what the other person is saying. And again, these ideas will be kind of expanded upon in the series. And the ability to practice self-soothing. I think very often in relationships, the individual can look to the other for soothing, and I do think that is an important role of a spouse or of a life partner, that the ability to be a place of comfort and support. But I also, in the same time, very strongly believe that each person needs to be able to self-soothe within the marriage, that there's his space and that there's her space, and there is a shared space of the marriage. That's very, very, very important. Venn diagram version of a healthy marriage: his space, her space, and the shared space of the marriage. And each person in their own space has to be able to self-soothe. Now, when the ability to communicate and to manage conflict exists in a marriage, it really it allows for endless possibilities. And I appreciate that a lot of people that joined today were rating their safety level in their marriage really high, and that speaks to me about the ability to manage conflict. It also speaks to me about how much work actually being in a marriage is. And I often tell, in one of my past roles was being a kala teacher, and you work with young kalas, and it's all about the love and the attraction, and those pieces are all really important. But I try to always point out that the most important part of a marriage is the commitment to work, and understanding that having a great relationship in the emotional realm and in the physical realm takes hard work. It's an avoda. It's an avoda like any other avoda in a person's life, and only with work on it can it get better. And that is another reason to congratulate all of you for being here today, because it's showing that you really do take this avoda seriously in terms of improving your intimate lives. In the final two stages of the safe house, the couple is looking to make life dreams come true and create shared meaning. And here we see very much that the ability for the couple to, if the initial stages have been accomplished and there's a friendship base in the home, that the couple is able to come together over the ability to create shared meaning in their lives, and that could be surrounding work and children and any other area, and as well as to make your life dreams come true. And I'll add in there the lens of the physical relationship that again, as we're building the ability to communicate, and we're talking about, you know, taking your sex life from good to great, and in being engaged in a relationship that allows for mutual pleasure and mutual giving. So that's the piece that kind of goes here on the top, that in every part of a relationship, there's a sharedness, and that every person, magia lahem, every person is deserving of pleasure and heights of pleasure in their relationship. And I want to just take a moment to speak about the idea of pleasure and to understand it a little bit from a Torah perspective. And I really we spoke a little bit in the beginning about how Hashem creates the body, how the body experiences the world. And Hashem, in his ultimate chachma, created in the body two pleasure centers. There's two pleasure centers in the body. And I know if anyone could, I'm not gonna, if anyone can tell me what the first one is, that's easy. An easy pleasure center is the tongue, and on the tongue there's taste buds, and through the tongue we experience so much pleasure. If you think about now, especially nowadays, with you know, if people are on social media, how much is about taking pictures of the food that you eat, of the food that you're about to eat, and the excitement surrounding eating, and how significant coming around the table is in the Orthodox tradition, and coming around the Shabbos table, and coming around the Yontif table. Excuse me, and we see that in other traditions as well, that eating is pleasurable and it's a place where the family come together. And I do believe that Hashem gave that to us specifically to enjoy in this world. And similarly, Hashem created in every person's body the ability to have sexual pleasure as well. And if we're able to understand that it was put there purposely and for a reason, and then we can start to understand this idea of that every person does deserve to have pleasure, and every person does deserve to have the height of pleasure. And I do believe that when the elements mentioned here in terms of building an emotionally sound relationship house within a relationship will allow for greater physical pleasure in terms of the lovemaking, and will allow for a fulfilling lovemaking experience, and will allow for a lovemaking experience that's focused towards growth, and again towards mutual pleasure and giving. Now, I think that, you know, just to understand the things that could be breakdowns, you know, we spend some time talking about the sound relationship house and the places of building and the places of growth, but places where there could be breakdown, and actually the opposite of a healthy physical relationship. And I'm going to go through them quickly, but they are important to note. Is that if a couple spends very little time together during the week, that could lead to I feel bad to title it, but a very bad sex life. Okay, here are some factors that lead to a really unhealthy sex life, a really not pleasurable sex life if you spend little time together during a typical week. If he becomes very job-centered, or she becomes very job-centered, and the focus becomes outward instead of inward, that could lead to really a negative experience in intimacy and physical intimacy. If couples' conversations surround mostly about their huge to-do lists, and not about ideas of, you know, sharing fondness and admiration, and the pieces that we spoke about here tonight, I think that when a couple makes everything else a priority and not the intimacy, not the physical intimacy, as we discussed, that the couple needs to be together on how important a great sex life is. They have to be involved, intellectually involved as well as emotionally involved. And I think that as over the years of a couple, if a couple starts drifting apart and leading parallel lives, that will definitely lead to a lack of physical intimacy in a relationship. And as we discussed, the idea of turning toward each other, when a couple is not able to turn toward each other, but they're actually intentionally turning away. So that does not allow for physical closeness. That does not allow for pleasure and mutual giving and mutual growth in the physical relationship. So as you can understand a little bit, everything that that's being discussed here tonight relates to creating this safe and sound relationship, and creating a space that feels good, that feels good on an emotional level, and that feels good on a physical level. When safety does not exist in a relationship, so vulnerability is not possible. Not emotional vulnerability, not sharing your experiences and your challenges, and as well as not being able to make yourself vulnerable in the bedroom. And the act of intimacy, of literally bearing yourself, being present without clothing on, it's a very vulnerable experience, and it really entails, it needs the backdrop of a safe and holding place in order for that to happen. And when we fully accept and understand that, and able to make ourselves vulnerable to the other, and in order for us to be able to be in a place for the other, our vulnerability, so this friendship-based sound relationship house needs to be in place. Okay. I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking, and I hope that everybody has been able to gain pieces and different parts that are applicable to their lives. I very much would like to, in my work, I work again up here in the intellectual and then the emotional, and then we go down into the body and we go down into the physical experience, okay? And so I would like to give you a short homework assignment. Not short, it could be as short or as long as you want, but a little bit of a homework assignment that will allow you to kind of take the temperature, to kind of get a feel for where you and your spouse are in terms of the safety of your relationship. And I'm speaking to the people who are listening, and then hopefully they'll be able to convey this to their spouse. And therefore I'm speaking to the spouse as well, that the exercise is for both of you to experience each other. And experience the what it feels like to be in a relationship. And so you can do this exercise in one of two ways, and that again depends on your ability to expose yourself and to make yourself vulnerable. But here's what I'm proposing. Okay, you have to set aside about 5 minutes. You could set aside 3 minutes if that's how much you want, but you can set aside 5 minutes. And I'm asking for you to sit in a quiet space with your spouse, and to hold each other's hands and to look into each other's eyes. And different couples that I've done this with, some shrug it off, or that's hokey, or that's ridiculous, or oh no, we can't do that. But if you take a minute to kind of digest all of the pieces that we've been talking about tonight in terms of being able to create a safe and sound place for you, for the emotional experience of the relationship, for you and your spouse. So there has to be the ability to sit with each other in an intimate experience that is surrounding touch, and is surrounding you and the spouse experiencing yourselves first of all, and the other. And I encourage you to maintain eye contact for at least 3 minutes. And I spoke about holding hands. If it feels awkward to you, or you would rather try something else, I would also offer to you, each of you placing a hand over the heart of the other, and thereby creating a very intimate space. And be there with each other in that space, and allow, again, your individual experience to come up, and the shared experience, and to take a few minutes after the exercise to talk about it. And I know that I mentioned this, but I'll mention it again, is that meaningful touch, one between the other, is really important, not necessarily surrounding intercourse. And I know, again, in some communities, in some cultures, the only touch that is acceptable or permissible is surrounding actual penetrative intercourse. And so with that understanding, I still encourage you to try this exercise at home, to notice what comes up for you physically, emotionally. Let your spouse notice those things. Spend the time looking at each other. Take the time afterwards to share that experience that you had with the other if it feels safe and right. And be in touch with me if you would like to share with me. So I feel like we kind of opened up a lot of topics and a lot of really important pieces to developing healthy, intimate relationship. And I would really like to welcome you to continue on this journey with me, with us, with this global learning community, and again, from a very anonymous perspective, and to find out more about how you can be part of the conversation.
Great, and we've got some great questions coming in. I assure you that we are going to answer all of those. I can see the biggest question right now is how do I continue and how do I join? So I'm going to go ahead and get to that. If you are interested in continuing on this journey with us and with Abby guiding you through, please just come back to the question box and let me know, right? Yes, that's me, so that I can get you the information that you need right now. Okay, yes, definitely, absolutely. Okay, wonderful. Let me go ahead and give you all of that information. And as I mentioned, please stick on the line. We are going to get to all of the questions that have come in, and there have been some really amazing questions. So here we go. We are inviting you to join Abby on her full 5 weeks of interactive workshops, including adjusting our sexual attitudes. So in week 1, we're going to engage in a mindful practice to bring yourself to full awareness and gain a better understanding of how the messages you've heard and internalized about your own body and sexuality has impacted your intimacy with your partner. Then the following week, creating an ideal intimate relationship, emotional and physical. Cultivate a safe and healthy dynamic based on trust, respect, reliability, and stability. By creating a relationship model that includes his space, her space, and shared space, you'll be able to experience a mutual pleasure of giving and receiving. Week 3 is how the body speaks its mind, the Guf Nefesh approach. Explore how the emotional realm affects the physical realm and vice versa. Often what is going on in the bedroom is reflective of certain dynamics taking place in the emotional part of a marriage. Plus, reapproach and redefine your ability to communicate with your spouse in regards to intimacy. Then, intimacy, the foundation of Shalom Bayit. Using couple-centered therapeutic models, discover how to make changes in a marriage of 20 years where patterns have been set and potentially pain has been inflicted. Plus, develop a language to get the pleasure you want with a new communication approach. And finally, there will be a full 1-hour Q&A to gain solutions to your personal questions through a live Q&A and implementation session. So obviously throughout your 5-week journey, you will have time to get questions answered through each session. But at the end, we offer this full 1-hour Q&A where we will get to as many questions as come in. Plus, I know that there were some questions coming in about more practical solutions versus just a theoretical approach. And Abby will absolutely come in and answer the questions that you need, offer the advice and the guidance that you need on a very practical level for your situation. And that can be in this Q&A time. And then also, we are going to be offering several fantastic bonuses that come along with your package. So just hold tight, and I'll get to that in a minute. Each ongoing live class will be interactive, so that allows you to write in your questions just as you've done today and still stay completely anonymous if you choose. And they will all take place on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Israel time. Our first class is starting next week, May 2nd, so we don't have a lot of time. We're going to get right to it and continue on this journey next Wednesday. But of course, don't worry if you can't attend a live there will always be a recording available to you the very next day in your own personal membership area. You'll have a login and a password to get in there, so you can, again, still keep it private. Nobody can just walk in and see it sitting on your desktop. You'll be able to access your recordings in your own personal membership area 24 hours after the live class takes place, and then that class is yours for a lifetime, so you can listen to them and download them at your convenience. Plus, as I mentioned, we are putting in some great bonuses so that during your journey, you will have personal email access to Abby so that you can get personal ongoing support throughout the program and answers to your personal questions through unlimited email access. And Abby will guide you hand in hand throughout the process. If you're feeling maybe a little bit shy or you don't want to get the questions answered on the live classes, or you're not able to attend some of the live classes, you can always send in your questions to Abby ahead of time, and she can email you back there. Plus, you'll also have the ability to email us at Jewish Workshops at any time, and we may have Abby actually discuss some of the questions. If it's a question that may be helpful to other people in the community, she can obviously leave your name and any personal information out, but maybe she can answer that live during a class so that other people can also hear the answers and understand that you are not alone in this process. These things are happening to couples all over the world, and we're here for each other to help be supportive. Also, Abby's put together a pre-recorded special class called As the Quality of Intimacy Evolves in a Marriage. Based on so many questions that came in ahead of time, we see that there are people from all different backgrounds, different cultures, and certainly different places in their marriages. We have people who have been married for a year or two, and people who have been married 30, 40, 50 years, thank God. But you can see in this class, you'll discover the changes a body and a relationship go through regarding sexuality during the lifetime, from the time of puberty through old age. Plus, Abby will uncover potential challenges one face in intimacy during the life cycle. Plus, Abby also put together another special pre-recorded class that will be available to you, both this and the one about through the lifetime. Those will be available to you as pre-recorded classes that you can listen to at your convenience. And this is about talking to your kids about intimacy and sexuality. Learn the value of allowing for safe and healthy communication between parents and children surrounding body image, sexuality, and intimacy. Abby will discuss age-appropriate speaking points for parents of children at every age and stage, from intimacy through adulthood, so you will be able to develop the language to engage with your children surrounding these important topics. And especially at a time like this where, as Abby mentioned, social media is so big and outside influences, unfortunately, are places where children turn to now instead of their parents. You'll be fully equipped with the right talking points and a conversation starter so that you can feel comfortable being the one that your child turns to. Plus, as a special mega bonus just for today, the first 50 people to register will also get a personal 30-minute one-on-one phone consultation with Abby. Abby so graciously offered her time and her expertise to community members. But of course, we need to be able to also be realistic in how much time Abby can put forth. Thank God she also has a family. And we are so excited to be able to offer to the first 50 people today the ability to get a one-on-one personal phone consultation with Abby to get your questions answered and get to know Abby a little bit more with your personal situation. So as you can see, Abby will be walking you through all aspects of creating and nurturing a healthy and happy, intimate relationship with your spouse. You'll have one-on-one support throughout this program and will have the unique opportunity to get your personal questions answered that you haven't been able to get answered previously. But most importantly, by investing in yourself, you'll get the tools and techniques to discover how to overcome the feelings of resentment, anger, and neglect by creating a safe haven of love, acceptance, and passion in your home. You'll discover how to communicate your most delicate and vulnerable feelings with openness and get rid of all fear and judgment. Plus, feel comfortable in your own skin and tune into the beauty and uniqueness of your body. You'll also be able to connect emotionally, spiritually, and physically with your spouse by learning how to fulfill each other's needs and desires, and protect the sanctity of your marriage by nurturing trust and respect, and never feel lonely, unloved, or unsatisfied again. The pain behind some of the questions that came in today and the pain that is being felt amongst this community is so intense that we are really trying to put an opportunity together like never before. So we are offering the full series plus the personal email support, the 2 additional pre-recorded classes, and as I mentioned, for the first 50 people, the one-on-one phone consultation. We are offering a special discounted rate, as I mentioned earlier, for you attending today for just $397. Plus, to make it accessible, we are also offering payment plan options when you click to register. You'll be able to choose the payment plan option that best fits your needs. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link right into your chat box. I can see people are asking if I can get that. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. And I put that into your chat box. You can just copy and paste it into a separate browser and stay on the line so you can still listen to get questions answered. But I do encourage you, when you are ready to join, go and grab your spot so that you can get that special additional 30-minute phone consultation with Abby. Sorry, let me make sure there's some questions here coming in. If you have any questions specifically, yes, I can see some of our members from other past Jewish workshops. Things are on the line. So if we have your card on file, we are happy to go ahead and just charge that for you if that's quicker and easier. Put your name and telephone number right here into the chat box. We're happy to give you a call, or you can also send an email to Jewish Workshops just with your confirmation, and we'll take care of holding that spot for you and registering you immediately. If you're having any difficulties, and I know this popped up before we even started, that people were having some trouble with their filters on their internet access. If you're having trouble getting to the jewishworkshops.com/intimacy page where you are able to register, please come back and put your name and telephone number. We'll give you a call immediately. I have people right here waiting to give you a call and help you get registered. I don't want that to be what stands in your way. If there's any trouble getting to the page, if there's any trouble with registration, again, when we have so much traffic going to the page all at once, that can also cause a little delay. Please just come back and put your name and your telephone number right into the chat box, and we will give you a call immediately. For those of you who are on the phone and are not seeing the page right here, let me put that in again. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. And if you need some help, just come back and put your name and telephone number. Once you're in, I'd also love if you could come back and just put your name, your first name or your initials, and the words "I'm in," so that I can see how many spots are being taken up and I can have an idea of what we've got left to offer. Oh, great. Wow. CP, you're already registered and in. Wonderful. Welcome. Okay, we've got MF, welcome. MS, welcome. Okay, that was really quick and wonderful. I'm so happy you got in and everything went through quickly. Please just come on back and let me know if you are in, and I would be happy to go ahead and welcome you. Okay, Abby, we did have some questions that came in earlier, so let me go ahead and get to some of those. I think we have some people here on the line that are waiting to get their questions answered. In answer to this question, just right here, Miriam, yes, you can pay in shekel. Please put your telephone number right into the chat box here so we can give you a call and help you take care of that on our end. Okay. We had a question come in. Many couples aren't able to achieve mutual communication or giving. And in this case, it seems like maybe they're just on different pages. Is it possible for this still to work, for this series to work, if only one partner is participating?
That's a great question. I guess I'm wondering about what are the things that that's holding back the other partner, or what are the things that are not letting them connect, because the whole series is about creating connection and creating a deeper emotional connection and physical connection. And so I guess in my hope, if it's a given that the partner would not want to participate and would not want to hear anything that the person who is participating is learning, then I would say that, definitely it's not worth your time. But if there is a little shemetz, a little tiny possibility that you might gain something that would be worthwhile to bring into your emotional world, relationship and your physical relationship, and the other might be open to it, so then I would encourage it. Again, I started with, like, I'm really wondering what's holding the other back, or what's keeping the other, I don't want to say holding them back, what's really keeping them away and what's keeping the distance. And I would only be able to assess that with that understanding. So I hope that that's a fair answer.
Thank you so much. And Jay, if you heard that, then you can also add any comments, so we can maybe get you a deeper answer if that's what you're looking for. Let me just get to some of these other questions that came in a little bit earlier. Sorry about that. Okay. Baruch Hashem, I feel very safe in my marriage, but my husband has a hard time balancing work and intimacy. He works very hard and very often to make ends meet, but I'm not sexually satisfied in my marriage, and it's very painful. By the time we do make love, he's so erect because he's sensitive that I don't have a chance to get pleasure, and I'm really sad. Is there something that we can do?
For sure. I would definitely encourage you. Hopefully you will. These are, that is something that will be touched upon in the course. But I think that being able just to have a conversation, a private conversation with you and myself, I could potentially be very helpful in that area. What you're describing is the experience of not being able to reach a point of pleasure, because for a woman it takes a longer time to become aroused and then to achieve a climax, and that isn't necessarily a similar experience on I don't want to say 100% of the time for the male sexual experience. And so often the female sexual experience, and in terms of the sexual response cycle and her ability to be aroused to the point of climax, is something that, again, I use the word avoda because it's something that can be developed and can be worked on, and can be achieved both within the couple's relationship.
Great, thank you so much. And again, I hope that answered your question. Please continue to put your questions in. We are going to get to as many as possible. I just want to go ahead and answer some of the questions about the course so that you can go ahead and save your spot. I can see welcome. So there are so many people continuing to join. I see I'm in. Wonderful. I will absolutely keep your names, of course, anonymous, but I do want to say welcome to all. There are some questions about when the classes are again. Again, sometimes I do speak a little quickly, so my apologies. The classes all will take place on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Israel time. We are starting next Wednesday, May 2nd, so make sure to mark that on your calendar. And it is the 5-week course of live and interactive classes, plus the 2 additional pre-recorded classes that you can listen to at your convenience. Unlimited email access to Abby to get your questions answered, and if there's something a little more personal that wasn't able to get answered on the live class, then please feel free. You can go ahead and get that question answered by Abby, so that, again, throughout your journey, you're not listening to just any class or picking up a book and and still trying to do this all on your own. This is a community that we are trying to build of people who are really here to support each other. So with Abby as your guide, you'll still be able to also hear other people's questions, hear what other people are going through, and God willing, that will help you in your journey too. And then, as I mentioned, the first 50 people today, which it looks like, thank God, we're getting close. The first 50 people will get that one-on-one phone consultation with Abby as well. So not only will you be able to listen to all of her guidance and the classes and get really in touch with what it is that you are trying to build in your relationship and in your marriage, but you'll also be able to have a consultation so that Abby can get to know you a little bit better. And once you register and we get closer to our first class, we'll also send out a survey to everyone so that we can get to know you a little bit, just a little about your background, how long you've been married. Abby wants to make this as personalized as possible. And again, of course, there will be people from all age groups, all different lifestyles, but we'd like to know who you are in a sense of what you're going through and what you'd like to achieve so that we can bring that to the table during the classes. Abby, so a question came in. I would like to know how I bring these new ideas into my marriage if my husband has no clue about it. Can I create a shift in marriage on my own regarding intimacy?
Totally. Totally. It only takes one person to create this shift. The other person does have to join, as we discussed in the last question. But yeah, if you're the trailblazer and you want to lead the way, and give him gain for yourself the tools, and then be able to give him the tools to kind of join you, for sure. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Abby, our participant who asked about the question with earlier about one spouse, willing to change and the other not being on the same page, and we weren't sure exactly what that meant. She wrote back in to say that one partner has Asperger's and has communication and empathy limitations. So it seems like the other partner is more capable or willing to be able to make some changes, and the other just might not be able to.
I understand, and I think the conversation surrounding Asperger's and emotional limitations, it definitely changes the conversation a little bit, but I don't believe that any person who is committed to a relationship cannot affect change for themselves. And I don't want to be giving hopeful aspirations that in actuality might be very hard to see come to fruition, but I do believe in the human ability to learn and affect change. When I do very much believe when there's a will, there's a way, even with the backdrop of Asperger's and emotional limitations.
Thank you so much. I know that, and here's a question that's coming in, and there were several that came in again ahead of time before our class today about different ideas of what is halachically appropriate in an intimate setting. Will you be discussing that in the course? Are there places or safe places that people can go, or ways that they can ask you maybe specific questions? I know, I don't want to get too specific here because I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know that there were a number of questions that came in that people were concerned that one spouse, wanted to do something and they weren't comfortable with it. So does that come back to an area of safety? Does it come back to an area of better understanding halachic parameters? What would you recommend for them?
Both of those, Jillian, great. I just want to reiterate that I will not be taking a halachic voice in the class. I do think that any area of specific concern, of personal concern, is something that I would be willing to talk out or email about. And if it becomes clear that what the person is trying to clarify or rectify is more like with a halachic authority, then I can definitely facilitate that. But that is definitely could potentially be part of the work on a personal level.
Great, thank you so much. And it does seem, here's another question that's coming in. It seems that a lot of people today are here on their own, not with their spouse. But someone's asking if, he does think that his wife would really gain a lot from the class. How does he approach that, in asking her to participate with still being very sensitive to the nature?
Great question. Great question. So again, I don't know the petitioner. I don't know you, and I don't know the nature of your relationship. And it could be already like an ongoing discussion in the marriage about kind of mismatched expectations and one spouse kind of looking for physical intimacy or wanting physical intimacy more than the other. I do think that, I want to kind of answer this question on the backdrop of like, I'm not sure what the past conversation has been like and if it was perceived as potentially aggressive or hurtful or just a real place of misunderstanding. But I do think that with the opening, with the ability to engage in this class, my hope is that it will allow for the couple to have a new conversation. And so I would offer to you that new voice of, honey, sweetie, darling, or just your wife's name, whatever you call her. I know this is something that we've spoken about before and that we've tried to work on. And I still have hope that things could be better for us in the physical area. And this might be a way for us to improve that. Recognizing that in the past, our efforts haven't worked, but I'm still looking and hopeful towards a future that incorporates emotional closeness and physical closeness. But it is very hard to kind of start a new conversation if there was a backdrop of a conversation already. Again, hard, not impossible.
Great, thank you. I want to welcome all of our new members. SH is in, and I see a number of other people are writing, I'm in, I registered, and I'm really looking forward. So welcome to everyone. I will, again, not mention your names, but I do want to say welcome. And Hannah from our Jewish Workshops team is here with us. If you could just come in and please bring me the number that we're up to just so that I know how many more spots we still have available for that phone consultation. That would be great, or you can send me a little message. Thank you. I have some other questions. Abby, we had, and I don't think that we ended up bringing it up in the class, we had some questions come in earlier, and there are questions coming in right now as well about initiating. We had, from the wife's perspective, my husband wants me to initiate more. From a husband's perspective, my wife expects me to always be the initiator. Where does it come in to make sure that both partners are comfortable putting that out there? And how do you make that a better situation where it's not, where it doesn't feel uncomfortable and doesn't feel tense once you actually get the initiation process started?
It doesn't feel one-sided. I think what you're speaking to, exactly. If I can zoom out, it's to a one-sided in this area. And I want to just go back to the safe house relationship model that we spend time on. That so much of the emotional relationship is about building mutuality and about building closeness and about building a friendship. Now, it's very possible that a couple has like an amazing friendship and all those pieces are in place, and still surrounding intimacy, there's a imbalance. And so the first thing that I would recommend, I will expand on this also more and expand upon this more in this series, is that each person needs to check in with themselves. Is what is going on for me that is not letting me reach out to my spouse in physical intimacy? Okay, and I'm not speaking so much to frequency, and I don't want to compare frequencies, but what the question that's being asked has to do with one-sidedness in the relationship, and that's speaking to that the other person, for some reason, it's almost as if the person who's initiating physical intimacy and initiating lovemaking is taking a step forward, and the other person is in the same place, either taking a step back, but is not taking that same step forward. And so there's an imbalance. We're speaking to an imbalance, and that is something that can be negotiated. But the first step of it is really understanding what's holding you back. What's holding you back from wanting to be engaged? Is it because it's not fun for you? It's because it's not pleasurable for you? It becomes a drain. First, by being honest with what is holding you back from initiating lovemaking, I think that's a place to work from and to grow from.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, we've got some more questions coming in here. Hannah just got back to me. Thank you, Hannah, for being here with us and helping us out here today. It looks like we're halfway there. So we've got 25 spots left to continue to get that additional special bonus of the personal phone consultation. So please make sure to come on back, and let me put the link right into your chat box again. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. And I do want to also make a reminder that there are payment plan options available. So we are having some people that are having trouble registering or they are not understanding. But as I mentioned, for today, because you are a webinar participant and you made that first step to come and join us today, the rate that we've actually taken the price down to, instead of $497 for the next 24 hours, it will be $397 just for you. There are payment plan options when you click to register. And if you're one of these first 50, which we still have some spots available, so you can still get in there, you'll get not only the full 5-week course, which includes the 4 weeks of classes plus that final class of a full hour Q&A. You'll also get, let me go ahead and show you. You'll also get the class on as the quality of intimacy evolves in a marriage. And I know that I can see people sending in questions about going through menopause, about different, being on, maybe different medications, having some ED problems or having your husband have ED problems. So those things will be covered throughout the course, plus this additional class on all the different challenges that you may face with your body, with your relationship, with your connection. You can learn in here. Plus, talking to your kids about intimacy and sexuality. So helping them really learn the value of a healthy communication between you and your child, so that they don't go to somebody else or an outside influence, or unfortunately get some crazy ideas in their minds based on books and movies and all of the other things that they can fall under. They can come to you and really get a better understanding as you develop that language to engage with your child. Plus, of course, the email access and this one-on-one phone consultation. So all of those things are available to you right now for just $397. And I can put that link again if you're on the phone, and I know some people were joining us on the phone. When you join the live classes throughout the series, you can also join by phone if that's easier for you. But as I mentioned, all recordings will be available to you in your own personal membership area, and that you will need internet access for, but you can download them at your convenience. And so then you can watch them anytime, anywhere, whether it's on a smartphone, an iPad. You can take it on the go with you if that's easier. If you drive a lot, you can listen to it in the car. We try to make them obviously as accessible as possible. And with the payment plan option, we do make that available to you as well, so that the payments come out each month in a smaller amount, and that also makes it easier on you. Yes, you will get email confirmation once you've registered. So if you have any questions, you don't see any confirmation coming in over the next literally about 20 minutes or so, please just email us at jewishworkshops@jewishworkshops.com, and we'll be more than happy to take a look and make sure that your registration went through okay. Okay, welcome. I'm glad to see somebody else is in here too. And I see some more numbers coming in. So please, again, I really urge you, if you have questions or need help registering, just put your telephone number right into the chat box so that we can reach out to you and help you with your registration. I don't want you to be left behind because there were some difficulties just with the registration page. Okay, so Abby, it looks like this person's writing in, I really don't feel a need for a physical relationship. Is there any way to learn to have that need?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. I'm from the opinion, and I come from the approach that, as I mentioned, Hashem created us with pleasure centers. God created us with pleasure centers in the body. And not only in terms of actual sexual arousal, but a very important part of the human experience is touch. And so if it is something that is important to you, definitely takes exploration and understanding about yourself and about your experience. But yeah, it is something that can come. I'm a firm believer.
Great, thank you so much. And we have somebody here who's waiting on the line, wanting to join, but has a question. Is it worth joining if you're married to a spouse who's going through depression right now?
That's a good question. I don't have a sense of how severe and how often depression is part of your life, of your marriage, of this couple's life. I do think that the tools that you hopefully will gain here, as Jillian mentioned, this is something that you will have and in your possession forever and can be applied at any point in a marriage. But that is something that you really have to assess for yourself in terms of how long the depression is going on and how severe it is, in terms of how much you want to be putting in and making yourself vulnerable in the relationship currently. That I can't answer for you, but I do feel like there is a lot that can be gained, and there's a lot that can be used for the future. And I'm also not convinced that somebody who is depressed, let's say, cannot somebody who's depressed can gain from this. It's not that the other person, again, depending on the severity of the depression, a person who is depressed can be engaged in some form of an emotional relationship and some form of a physical relationship. So definitely a hard question. I think I answered as much as I can, and a lot of the decision lies with you. Patzlacha, that's really, it's really hard, really challenging.
Thank you so much. And can we also just touch on abuse for another minute? I know that you mentioned that in the beginning of the class. We do have some people who came in a little bit later who didn't make it to the very first part. How do you know if you're being sexually or emotionally abused?
That is a really, really important question. I think one of the hardest things for a person to notice, if you're in a loving, you're in a relationship with somebody and you chose to marry them, to be able to pick up on potentially the nuances that could be taking place within the relationship, and noticing that is something that isn't safe, that could be termed as abuse. And so, if I'll give you just some examples, and this is something that if you would like to be in touch with me privately, I welcome you. If you're noticing that you don't have a voice in the relationship, that nothing that you say is valued in the relationship, if any of the choices that you would like to make are not kind of not accepted, and it really has a lot to do, especially with like emotional abuse, of you having a place that is respected in the marriage. I think actual physical abuse, that would be any time that you feel restrained physically in a way that is controlling and that takes away your power and your ability to say no, speak for yourself, and use your own voice. And some people, unfortunately, are used to being in abusive relationships. Perhaps they grew up in a home with an abusive parent and therefore have taken on that more submissive and more agreeable voice. And only as an adult in a longer term relationship, in a marriage and raising children, maybe you're noticing, you're picking up on the fact that something doesn't feel right about this. And I would just say, in terms of sexuality, sexual abuse, that again, there you don't have a voice about what's appropriate and what's comfortable, and when would you engage in lovemaking, and there's an underlying feeling of, I am not allowed to be as I am, and that everything has to be in terms of the other and not me. If this is something that you are wondering about, and I almost like, it's hard for me to have this conversation over the computer without knowing who the person is and the entire story. But if you even have a shemetz of a thought, a little teensy doubt that that some element of your relationship could be abusive, I really encourage you to seek help and to gain support in this area, because to live in an abusive relationship it can destroy the individual over the years in many different ways.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your candidness. Thank you. I do see that we have some more questions coming in. And again, some people who are asking about recording and if it's possible for their spouses to listen to. We will do our very best to send a recording of this class out tomorrow so that you can share it with your spouse and they have a chance to also listen to it. Of course, you can also share it with somebody else if you feel like that might be something that's anyone in your life can gain from. You're more than welcome to do that as well. Okay, let me get to see if there's any more questions coming in here. Yes, we still do have a few spots left for the personal consultation, so please go ahead and make sure you get to register now. Let me put that back up on the screen. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. I see that there were some questions that had come in, Abby, in regards to being able to balance it all. And, you know, I appreciate that you mentioned during the class date night, because I know that that's really important. But we seem to have some people, a number of people, obviously, thank God, that are that have, you know, homes full of children and spouse, you know, they and their spouse are working. And so it's, you know, finally time that everybody's asleep and all they want to do is go to sleep. How do you still create that intimacy? How do you create the, I guess, the passion and even the desire when, you know, you're tired and there's so much else going on? And like you mentioned, laundry has to be done. What else can couples do?
So this is definitely a huge question that comes up in almost every class that I give, and the idea of moving physical intimacy to more towards the top of the list is an effort, and it has to be a place that the both parts of the couple want to do and be invested in. When this topic comes up, and it always does, like I said. What I offer, I don't often like to go into like, okay, and this is what you should do. I call those practical solutions, and I do offer practical solutions, but I usually offer them from an emotional and experiential background. But in terms of planning date night and scheduling sex, scheduling physical intimacy between a husband and a wife, what I do offer is literally take out your calendar, okay, and start blocking off chunks of time. Because Jillian, exactly what you're speaking to is that at the end of a day of entire day of work and perhaps time with the children and everything else that needs to happen in a home and community responsibilities, yeah, there's exhaustion and perhaps low desire. And so it is incumbent upon the couple to find a time that not every single one of those factors have to be in place. Also, when a person has older teenage kids, it's not so simple to crawl into bed at night and have, you know, passionate lovemaking with your spouse. With, you know, teenage kids around the house. And so I very much encourage blocking off different times of the day, maybe the morning, maybe when everybody leaves the house in the morning, blocking off an hour in the morning, taking a half a day to spend together in the house. And trying to be creative, a husband and wife being creative when they're able to join together that this is something that we want to put effort in and be serious about. Because if we're able to say, how important is this to you? Okay, so then how do we shift around other things in our life in order for good quality physical intimacy to happen on a regular basis? And oftentimes it literally does entail taking out the Yoman, taking out the calendar, blocking off time, and then as if it's an important meeting or an appointment that you can only get for this and this doctor. That's how important the physical intimacy needs to be in order to make it happen.
Thank you so much. I did have another question that had come in about, here we go. I see how much my husband enjoys being together, and I wish I could enjoy it even a fraction as much, but I've never had an orgasm and I don't enjoy physical intimacy. What can we do?
You are not alone. There is a world of women who are, I like to, the term used is pre-orgasmic, who have yet to experience an orgasm, either on their own or in a physical encounter with their spouse. And so there is, along with creating the emotional intimacy and all of the pieces that we discussed tonight together, there is a series of exercise and exploratory steps in order for you to begin to understand your own sexuality. And something that I encourage in every class that I give is the first step is really owning your body. I give out mirrors in my classes, and every woman should take time, every woman and every man should take time to understand their private areas and to know what's going on down there. If we think about what the vaginal area is, it's an area that we don't look at and that we don't touch and we don't have a connection to. And I do think that I do believe that a lot of what needs to happen in order for a woman to reach climax is that she needs to be able to get to a point of comfort in her own body. This is what we discussed in class 1 of the series, and we kind of work towards an understanding and a relationship with the body, especially with the genital area of the body.
Thank you so much. And then I obviously want to make it just clear for everybody who's joining and continuing on the journey that there will be some, again, and you mentioned it in the beginning of this class, there will be some explicit explanations of, how and right, how to do or how to make things more pleasurable. And it won't necessarily strictly be an idea, but it will be a practical tool and help people get these the information that they need. So is that correct? I just want to make sure that everyone really is under the understanding that.
Yeah, and if something isn't, I am explicit. I try not to be overly explicit because I'm not looking to freak anybody out. But if anybody has further questions, based on the information that I do offer, and if there are further questions, that's where the email comes in, that's where the phone conversation comes in. And in order to get your specific need met, yes, we will get there together. If it's not within the actual class hour, that's where all the other interaction comes in, for sure.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you so much. And I hope that answered some questions that were coming in as well about that. Okay, so it looks like I've got time for just a couple more questions, and we do have some additional ones coming in. In the meantime, before I get to these last couple questions, I do want to remind everyone that there are, Hannah, if you can just update us, that would be great. There are, I know, a few spots left still, so I'm going to get that updated number in a minute for you. But in the meantime, let me just put this back into the chat box. What you can do is when I put it here into the chat box, you can still stay on the line with us. You can continue to listen to any questions that are coming in so that you don't miss anything, but you can actually just copy it right out of there and place it into your other browser and go ahead, secure your spot, register, but still be able to listen to the webinar. How do I know if I'm one of the first 50? You are one of the first 50, so congratulations. Like I just said, we do still have a few spots left for that. So if you are registering now, please make sure to do so. If you've already registered, you are one of the first 50. And if you can register in the next little bit, then you will still be one of the first 50. So I encourage you to not wait very long. You will still get your spot. It is available. It looks like we do still have 15 more spots left. So please make sure to go ahead and grab yours now. As I mentioned before too, not only will you get that special additional mega bonus of the consultation, but you do still get the special discounted rate as well for being an attendee today. So only $397, and it includes the full course plus all of those additional bonuses. So as we're wrapping up here, if you still have any questions or need help registering, please go to the chat box and put your name and telephone number in so that we can give you a call and help you secure your spot that way. I'm going to go ahead and ask Abby just a couple more questions, but as soon as I do close that webinar up, we won't be able to get your information. So if you need some additional, if you have additional questions or need some help, please go ahead and put that in so we can get to you. Oh, and we're having, I've very much enjoyed this course. Thank you so much, Abby. Okay, great. Thank you. Can you suggest some names of specialists? Please just be in touch with us if you have specific needs or need some additional guidance. Please be in touch with Jewish Workshops at jewishworkshops.com. We will make sure to get you the answers that you are looking for.
Great, because I have some amazing colleagues out there, and I will get that information to you guys at Jewish Workshops.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So Abby, as we're closing up here, we've, thank God, still got hundreds of people on the line. Can you leave us with some parting words for our members?
Thank you for the opportunity. I really feel, especially based on the questions asked tonight, everybody, there were some really good questions, really important questions that came up. And I guess my parting message is that, like I said, marriage is hard. It's hard work in the emotional area and in the physical realm. But I really do believe the hard is really what makes it great. And I really encourage every person on the line and your spouses on the line or not to give up, to continue on this journey, to continue putting in the effort. Again, in the understanding that this is a safe relationship. We do get married with the hope of building ourselves and of building a life together, and that idea takes a lot of effort, and so stick with it, and God willing, you'll be able to see the fruits of your effort in the emotional realm and in the physical realm.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that you were here. Thank you for opening up this conversation. It's so much needed in our community, and we can see that from, the hundreds of people who came in from around the world. We really appreciate that you're here for us to help guide us in such a sensitive and important matter. Thank you to everyone who was here with us today. Thank you for taking that step, and it's a brave step. It is not something that should go lightly. Thank you for, recognizing that and taking that step to come and listen to what Abby has to say. I'm certainly hopeful that I will see you next week on Wednesday, May 2nd, when we continue this journey at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Israel time. I'm going to go ahead and just keep the webinar open for another couple minutes so that you can get your name and telephone number into the chat box if you still have questions or need some help registering. You won't hear anything, but at least I'll leave it open for you to be able to still do that. I don't want you to miss the opportunity, and once we close up, we won't be able to get that from you. So thank you again, Abby. Thank you to all of you who joined in today. It was a real pleasure. And Abby, I look forward to seeing you. And I can see so many thank yous coming in. Thank you so much, Abby. This really meant a lot. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined. Have a wonderful day.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.